All right, so I got to ask you off the bat, just being a person of color in baseball, me as a teenager growing up, I always knew when I watched the Rangers, a guy like Ken Hill, yourself, Darren Oliver being on that team. When you see now in baseball, pitchers like Taylor Hearn, Devin Williams, different pitchers, what do you think about that?
I mean, it's great for the game, but we still have a long ways to go. It seems like, less and less more black kids are playing the sport. And I think, for them to really want to play it, you got to start from a young age. You can't try to pick it up at 13, 14, like maybe basketball or football. You got to love it. It's not fast-paced like basketball and football. It's a little slow. I mean, I have kids myself that are older now, and they didn't really like it. I mean, and I played the game and took them to the field a lot, and they still didn't really gravitate towards it. So I think they need to do something to kind of spice it up, make it a little bit more fun for the younger generation.
I love it. So for you, you had other stops, but you're considered a Ranger lifer. Can you talk about playing in Texas, playing in that ballpark, number one, and the heat, now seeing the difference, and just the overall fan base being a Ranger?
Actually, the heat as a player, it didn't bother me. I love playing baseball outside. I think it was meant to play outside. But as a fan, when you get to June, July, and August here in Texas, it's nice to be able to come to the ballpark and be inside and the temperature be 75 degrees. So I kind of get it. It's I think usually if the team wins, if the team is winning, it doesn't matter how hot or how cold it is. People will show up. But it definitely makes it a lot more enjoyable when the temperature's at a certain degree.
Beyond the World Series, what would you say for you is your favorite Ranger moment being a part of?
It's kind of funny because when I would hear certain guys talk about, the 2010, 11 team, I was part of like the first playoff team. It's kind of like, I don't know, because I thought those teams were good too. So it was definitely fun, and I'm glad I got to experience it. I definitely enjoyed my time being here and playing with those teams. But hopefully, years to come, they have those same teams, and guys can say the same thing that I'm saying.
Speaking of those '90s teams, I was talking about the other day. You had a back-to-back or two-time MVP like Juan Gonzalez. You had Pudge, Rafi, and you added Will Clark later. When you think about the talent from those '90s teams, they don't get talked about a lot. Can you talk about that team, those teams, and how good they were?
This is what I always tell people with the teams, maybe in the '90s as opposed to teams now. Back then, there were no cell phones and social media. So when you played the game and you got on the bus or the airplane, you had to talk to one another. We talked about the game a lot more than the kids do now. The analytics wasn't like it was now. So I see a lot of guys that come to the game, they show up, they play, they go home. Everybody's on their phone and stuff like that. So that's why they have so many more coaches, to teach them the game. But we kind of had to learn with our teammates. We used to have roommates, believe it or not. So it's just, to see the change in, how the game is played now. It's like, yeah, I like it, but some parts I don't like, but that's just the way it is.
So you obviously had Ron Washington as a manager, but you had a guy like Johnny Oates as well. God rest his soul. Can you talk about Johnny Oates and his impact for you, especially in that first one?
So Johnny Oates was definitely, he would have loved analytics. This guy, you walk in his office, he's got his pens lined up. He was very neat. Always smelled good too. Ron Washington was like your neighbor next door that would just always be out there. You'd be out there watering the grass. He pops his head over. Next thing you know, you've been out there talking to him for 2 or 3 hours. It was just a different dynamic how Johnny and Ron Washington was. Ron Washington's just more like your everyday guy, just having fun, and it's definitely it was fun playing for both of us.
I love that. So I have this question called Baseball Mount Rushmore. And what I like to do, I usually break down positions, but I'm gonna have fun with you today with this one. I want you to give me, if you had to put 4 Rangers in Mount Rushmore baseball for the Texas Rangers, who would be the 4 Rangers?
There he is.
So obviously Nolan Ryan. Check how far back we can go on this one. Pudge is the catcher.
Okay. We'll make it easy. Give me one outfield and one infield. So you gave me a pitcher in Nolan. You
Okay.
gave me a catcher. That's
Right.
how I usually do it. And I give you one infield and one outfield. Period.
I would go Juan Gonzalez,
Okay. Is your outfielder?
and
Infield's tough.
feels pretty tough.
Yes.
You know, you can either go Beltre or Michael Young.
I like that. So just for you growing up, who were some guys that you looked at and you said, man, this makes me want to play the game of baseball? Who did you look up to?
Oh, Dave Parker?
The greats?
Yeah.
Cobra.
I used to watch the games. You know, I used to get, you know, back then the cable wasn't, we used to get WTBS and WGN. So WGN used to play the day games, you know, in the summertime, so I could watch the games. So I'd always watch like Ryan Sandberg, Andre Dawson, you know, those guys. And then maybe later on at night, they'd have the Braves game on. And, you know, I'd watch guys like Dale Murphy, you know, those guys like that play.
Okay, so with the Hall of Fame, the Rangers Hall of Fame happening right now, a guy like John Blake, who you're around for both his teams, obviously. So how is it to see him finally get his due and get his flowers? Because obviously being a PR back then, maybe it's totally different than now with, like you said, cell phones. But being around John Blake, how you feel about him being in the Hall of Fame, which well deserved?
I love JB. I would always have a good time with him. When you see him, it looks like he's always thinking. But every time I would see him, you know, I'd say, hey, what's going on today, John? You know, I always say something to him funny. He's just, you know, he's just always thinking, trying to make sure that, you know, everybody's happy and, you know, has to deal with the media. And I was like that clown guy would come in and just kind of get him to smile, crack a smile every now and then. But it's really good to see him get in.
I love it. So final question, we're going to call this the Fanatics View question of the day. Your favorite baseball movie all time?
Trying to think. I mean, I kind of like. I know people say Field of Dreams, but I like Bull Durham. I feel like that was like the most accurate version of how minor league baseball used to be back in the day when I came up.
I love it. Well, Darren, you know, as a fan of baseball, growing up in baseball and being able to watch you, especially as a young guy going into my adult years, I appreciate what you have done for the culture of baseball and life of baseball, and continue to do great things. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Thank you.